Hi, I'm James and welcome to today's review of the Zvezda Soviet main battle tank T72B. It's part of their Hot War range, which I don't play, but obviously it's a 1/100th or 15mm model. It's fine for other games such as Team Yankee and so on. And it's worth remembering this is designed as a wargaming model. Now we've got a very nice illustration on the box front there of a T72B with Contact 1 reactive armour on it. There's only one problem. When we look at the back of the box, you'll see the armour has got a very different profile, particularly if you look at the turret there as opposed to there. What Zvezda have actually done is they've recycled box art for a T72 but for a different model. The version we're looking at here is a T72B M1989, I would suggest. I'm not an absolute expert on it, but that did seem to be the version that we find. So let's have a look what we've got. We've got the usual Zvezda numberings. Quite nicely, you've got 6 sets of the numbers 1 to 9 and 0, which means that you can use any 3-digit tactical number. The Russians are very big on the tactical numbers, although they did vary how they worked. So we've got that. We've got our instruction leaflet. Hardly the most complex of kits. You can see there's not a lot to it. And then we've actually got the parts themselves. So let's undo that. Let's see what we've got. So let's start with this sprue. So on this sprue, what we've got the whole sides with the suspension, we've got the tracks, we've got the side skirts. You'll also notice on the side skirts it's slightly different from the box in that you've got 3 large panels on each side, and then you've got the 2 of the skeletons that go together when you build the hull. We'll show you how that works in a minute. Then we have on this piece we have the log, the unditching log. It's a bit smooth, that. It's basically a piece of wood. Virtually all Russian APCs carry that for unditching. We've got 2 halves of the fuel drums, or the 2 halves because the other halves are built into the chassis there. We've then got the top of the vehicle. There's a lot of nice detailing on there. We'll talk about some of that later on. And then we get the really complex part, the turret. It's one piece. That is literally all there is to it. So it's not exactly. Oh, and we also have the flag that is used in Art of Tactic. Now, obviously, I don't game Art of Tactic, so I don't worry too much about that. I'm just looking. There's a grand total of 15 parts, including the flag. So basically, 14-part model as far as I'm concerned. So what I'm going to do is we're actually going to do a build on it, and we'll see how well it goes together. So we'll start by taking the hull off. Zvezda have got a very simple way of assembling all of these. Let's just turn that back over to the right side. No, it's just the transfers on that side. See what they've done. They've actually put the instructions for assembling the sub-assembly to one side. So, clips off fairly easily. It's a nice hard plastic. If, like me, you remember the old Airfix kits as a kid, if you regard it as about that standard for hardness. Now they are, when you look at this, very sort of nice simple pieces. They are slot together rather than having to glue. I'm just going to try it just slotting together. Generally when I get a Zvezda kit I glue it, but it should just be interesting to see just how well it does go together without it. So Zvezda's way of putting this together is that they start off with these pieces. In this case it's the long edge, long sort of pins that go down. I've heard people describe these as quite a tight fit, and they do seem to be quite easy to slot in, but do take a little tiny bit of force. When you're putting it in, just make sure that you have the little pins there to the outside, because that's what we're going to use to fit the sides of the hull on. Zvezda do like the little sub-assemblies like that. They do come in very useful when you're actually building the model. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the order slightly and put the parts on the rear once I've actually assembled the sides there, because I know I'm likely to knock them off if I try and build something like that. So we've got the sides with the suspension. It's a nicely detailed suspension. I mean, we're not talking scale modelling standards here, you're talking a gaming model, and it is important to just remember that. So they now have those little indents which will push onto these ones that we had earlier that I said make sure you get the right way around. It's not quite right on there. That's better. That is quite a tight fit actually. Does take a little bit of effort to put on. So you can glue them, that will reduce the amount of gap, but I think it's still perfectly okay. Oops, let's see what I've done there. I've taken that out of the main ones. It just does show you that they are quite tight fitting there, and I obviously didn't have it in quite tight enough. I think the best way to do that is to take that back off. It's one nice thing about assembling it without glue, I suppose, is if it does go wrong you can always go back a step. So I pushed a bit harder this time, so these should now fit on nicely. I suppose if you were actually assembling this with glue you could actually skip the internal skeleton there and just actually put it straight in. That feels more like it. So there now, that's the main part there. So we'll add the oil drums at the rear. Russian vehicles were always very keen to have resupply on board using the external tanks. Something that the West actually started a bit more recently, but from the perspective of logistics it does make a lot of sense. And they actually mould quite well into there, because that's usually one of the big weaknesses I've found with models of oil drums on the back of a vehicle, is you see them in half. The only ones I've seen I think that beat these are the Plastic Soldier Company ones, where they come up with an ingenious way of avoiding a mould on the side by moulding them very similarly to this actually. So that works. And ditching beam does feel a bit smooth. I might scuff that one up a bit before I put it on. So where does that fit it? Oh, there we go. We've got the two little holes there. That pushes on. Might have been better to have fitted this before I fitted the rest of it, but I've done it now, so line those holes up. There we go, that pushes on. That's better than I thought actually. That is quite secure on there. I quite like that. So we'll add the track units on now. It's worth noting that the when you look at the illustrations, the sprocket wheel goes at the rear. I'll look see if they're keyed, so they would go either way. They're not bad set of tracks actually, I quite like them. The detailing on them is simplified, but it's more than adequate from a gaming perspective. They do look quite nice. Plenty of places to clip it off. Yeah, it is going to be keyed because one's got a hole, one's got a peg, so it will only go on one way. I like things like that. I've got quite a few gaming T72s where I didn't read the instruction carefully enough. Well, to be honest, I didn't speak the pidgin English it was written in, and I've got exhausts on T34s facing upside down, so I like it when you actually peg stuff so it can only go in one way. Yeah, it's detailed enough track. A lot of it's going to get hidden anyway once it goes on. So let's have a look. Yeah, that's only going to go on one way, isn't it? Let's have a look, confirm that. Yeah, these sets so it can only go on the one way. And how well does it all line up? Well, that lines up quite nicely when you look at the side there. It all matches up. Wheel detail is nice. They've caught the wheel detail nicely. But very simple one-piece track units. I always like simple one-piece track units. Probably going back to when I used to have the old Airfix kits and the Matchbox kits growing up, the nightmare that they used to entail trying to get those together. Still have nightmares with them. Then we got the Esky ones where they made them in individual track links to a degree. While they looked good, they were a pain to put together. Whereas this, you can see how quickly it's gone together on the tracks. And there we go. That's the whole top fitted. So I'll talk about some of the detail when we've got the model finished. So let's add the track guards with the extra armour being added on them. Nice detailing on the panelling here. You can actually see the individual panels, which is a lot better than the version that they did on the M1 that I recently reviewed, which I've got to be honest was not impressive on that side of things. So I'll take those off. Again, that's that sprue finished with, and that should just slot in. Which way up does it go? Make sure I get it the right way up. Yeah, it does go that way up. There's some little holes for it to push into there in the hull. Yeah, that's a part that probably will want gluing, I think, just to keep it nice and tight in. Possibly there as well, the front hull. But actually, no, that one's pushed shut nicely. Same approach again. There's a nice easy one to line up in the middle there. Once you've lined that one, the others should then fall into place. I use the word should. Okay, I've got that one in, so let's get that one in. It's a bit annoying that it hides the details on the top of the tracks, but that's what happens in real life. It looks like that. So they slot on. Oh, that one's not in, I thought it was in. This has been the only fiddly bit on the kit so far. No, that's definitely not going in. Right, hole's closed up enough for it. Let's try it again. Not like Zvezda to have a difficult bit to fit, but I suppose these are possibly not the easiest of items to manufacture from a gaming perspective. Okay, there we go. So I've got that in there. And we've got the, like I said, the really complex turret. Does mean, of course, that the gun barrel won't elevate, but that is not a problem for me. Okay, I was looking at a good look at it. I like that it's got the profile nicely of the contact armour. Turret will just go onto there. And it rotates fairly easily. I know some models I struggle with that. Now that's not a perfect model. Looking at the top of the turret, for example, it's missing the anti-aircraft machine gun, and some other features around by the commander's position. But it's good enough from a gaming perspective. It's recognisable for what it is. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at it on the turntable, and I'll give a little bit of a comment on what I think of the detailing and what we can use it for. So here's the finished model. It's painted up quite nicely. I'm not far from being a brilliant painter, and bearing in mind it's going to be part of a massed horde, I can live with that. It just had a quick spray paint of green, a quick dry brush, a quick wash, a little bit of mud added, numbers added, and it was complete. So overall then, what do I think of it? Well, it's strange. There's certain bits of detailing are absolutely fantastic. It even has the blade under the front of the hull, which is used to scrape position. It's got detail like that, but it then misses the shield and machine gun for the commander. It's also, when you look at the hull front, got the contact 5 on the turret. It's got the plates on the hull skirts, but there's none on the front of the hull. It's a nice enough model. It's definitely what I'm going to use. It's just missing odd little bits that would have just improved that performance. Would I recommend buying it? Now that's an awkward one. My answer to that is yes, but not at the minute. Zvezda are a Russian company, and with what's going on in the Ukraine, I can't justify buying them. The ones I've got, I'm building from what I've got in my stash. Once they're gone, I don't intend to pick up any more until the Ukraine situation's resolved. It's a bit sad, really, that gaming has got too real world, but I think that is something that I need to say. So overall, nice model, odd bits of detailing, but unfortunately at the minute I don't buy.